Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and digperspectives.com. And you can also join us in the Freedom Zone, ladies and gentlemen. Just click the join button under any title of my video on YouTube or join in the description box at Patreon. Same price, same perks, no Google ads, zero Google ads on my daily videos, and extra content as well. And today you're going to want to be inside of there. We're going to talk about the real threat of W3. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over it. Right now, $3.41 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 3.5, 105,000 plus for Bitcoin, 2,500 plus for Ethereum. XRP is $2.20. Now, we're off 2.3 in the 24, and we're off 4.4 on the 7-day. But we were over 230 last night. We got as high as 233 and ranging between 220 and 233 right now. We will keep an eye on what's going on here. Again, President Trump's True Social files for Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, ladies and gentlemen. This space is just getting bigger. And I tell you guys about this all the time, that you know how when a bull cycle, if you've been here before for a bull run, then you know that these exchanges freeze up. And that's why I tell you, with the demand we're seeing with ETFs, and I believe ETFs rolling out, that's why you need to open your free account with Caleb and Brown. Listen, you guys know I use multiple different platforms to store my crypto. I always have. But finding Caleb and Brown, I've watched them for years, and it is time for you to check them out too if you haven't already done it and created an account. Go to XRPwealth589.com and open your free account today. Why? Because they have no hidden fees, no hidden spreads. Why? Because they have free institutional grade custody. Why? They have multiple layers of security. Why? Because they have human customer service, and no one else does. No one else does. Make sure you go to XRPwealth589.com. Start getting the best night of your sleep. Best night's sleep since you've been in crypto. Let's get started right here. The ETFs are going and the files are coming in, and we know that there's even more. We'll cover that in the second video. But let's keep moving here because the Fed is set to announce the interest rate decision this Wednesday, tomorrow. Now, what do you think they're going to do? Will they hold, hike, or cut? I hope that they cut. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, this dropped here late last night from James Filan. Shout out to him, still serving it up for all of us for nothing, but just, I have to say, but grace, right? This guy has been so gracious to all of us to keep us informed when things come in. And Jim, we're very grateful for you. No question about it. Here we see the SEC versus Ripple in light of the pending motion for an indicative ruling. The parties have now requested that the Second Circuit continue to hold the appeals in abeyance, with the SEC to file a status report by August 15th, 2025. Now, with that being said, at the same time, we see data coming in here that shows, sentiment data shows over 2,700 wallets now hold at least 1 million XRP each. First time ever in its 12-plus year history. So at the same time that they're asking for an extension here, we see more wallets holding 1 million plus XRP growing to over 2,700 now. Okay, got it. Again, the SEC have filed a joint status report with the Second Circuit Court asking to pause all appeals while the district court reviews a key motion for an indicative ruling. Signs of de-escalation in the long XRP war? I think so. And here we see the push is here till August 15th. That's the actual ruling. I wanted to show you this. Bill Morgan came in and said this in response to Eggrag Crypto, who was saying they saw a nasty candle on the chart after the news was announced about the report with the Second Circuit Court and pushing the appeals back. Well, he said this. He says, this doesn't delay the decision on the joint motion filed last week until August. He says the SEC only sought to extend the period in which the appeal, cross-appeal are held in abeyance for a further 60 days. The decision of Judge Torres on the joint motion could be delivered in days. So what he's saying here is they've got the window, but Judge Torres doesn't necessarily have to wait to 60 days to make that decision and rule on that motion. So, head on a swivel. I happen to say this. August 15th puts us mentally, I'm thinking, well, that puts us right about where we've heard that we want to see all this crypto legislation passed and on the desk of the president to sign into law before August recess. So I said, it appears they're pushing the decision back until legislation is passed. I've always believed that this judgment against Ripple for OTC institutional sales was a placeholder decision to force the SEC and Ripple to negotiate. And the entire case has been an audit and vetting process as much as it is a legal matter. Remember, the SEC sued Amazon, the SEC sued Microsoft, the SEC sued Tesla, and they're all doing fantastic now. And don't forget, why would they do these things? Well, because the most important instrument in the financial world is being tokenized on the XRP ledger. Can you guess what it is? It's the debt of the United States of America in the form of U.S. Treasury bonds. Open Eden in 24 were partnered with Ripple to become the first tokenized U.S. Treasuries launched on the XRP ledger. Soon to follow that was Ondo Finance bringing OUSG on the XRP ledger in conjunction with BlackRock's Biddle Fund. Arguably the most important traditional financial instruments being tokenized on the XRP ledger, it is the U.S. bond market and U.S. debt. That's why I believe this case is so important. And it may just be that they're pushing this forbearance back so we can have it timed better with the legislation passed so all the market can take off and real USD and XRP can roll out en masse with legislation in its sales. That's what it looks like. And remember, Greg Kidd told us at XRP Las Vegas, we're putting the entire banking industry directly on chain. Yes, the XRP ledger.
And you're sending it back home to your mom. If that money never leaves being a dollar, never leaves the country, never even leaves the bank, is that a remittance? I don't think so. I think in this new world, if everything is on ledger, including the XRP ledger, and it's just moving on ledger, what does it mean anymore to move money from one country to another? It doesn't really happen. It just all stays on ledger. And it's the XRP ledger that made that possible all the way back in 2012. That's really why I joined Ripple to this day. And so buying a bank and putting US dollars on, we've also made an investment in the Bank of London, and I'm closing a bank deal in Europe soon. Mm-hmm. So that means dollars, pounds, and euros running 24/7 bank money on chain.
On chain, on the XRP ledger.
On the XRP ledger. Okay. We'll put it on other ledgers too.
News.
So, yep.
There you have it. It is all happening. And the pound, the euro, right? This dollar stablecoin, right? Because make no mistake, the crypto ledger is the XRP ledger. It is a ledger of record.
I've never seen in all my time since being in payments, in crypto, the planets aligned as well as they are now. And so amazing things are happening. We couldn't be more excited to be able to finally take everything that's on the ledger has a crypto address and a bank account routing number. Mm-hmm. It's not like there's this and this and they, it's one ledger, dual addressed. It's like in the old days, they used to have CDMA and GSM. Somebody finally said, why don't you just make the phones do both? Or 110 volt, 220. Now everything is one thing, but the ledger of record, make no mistake, is a crypto ledger like the XRP ledger.
Mm-hmm.
There you have it right there. And with that, what do we know? XRP Ledger expands stablecoin ecosystem as Ripple drives institutional adoption with XRP. And I went in this and showed you guys all the different stablecoins that are now proliferating on the XRP Ledger. We know whether it's the Singapore stablecoin dollar, right? Two different euro stable coins, a Brazilian stable coin, right? US stable coins, USDC, real USD. It's all coming. And it looks a lot like what we've seen over the years. Now, this was a CBDC model. But CBDCs or stable coins, regardless, the effects are the same. That's what's taking shape here. And Greg Kidd said it on stage. They're physically doing this. This is happening. And it sounds a lot like what David Andelfado from the Federal Reserve Bank at St. Louis said about Ripple too, right? XRP is the plumbing, baby.
Does anybody use Ripple? Wow. I think you guys might be the winners. Because Ripple is a currency agnostic protocol. You know, Bitcoin Bitcoin wants to be the money. Ripple, they have their native currency, but they don't necessarily. Ripple is a protocol that works very similarly to Bitcoin, but it's more interested in facilitating processing payments. But it'll process US dollars, euros, Bitcoins, its native currency. It's currency agnostic. And so it's quite possible that this ruling actually benefits the payments processors as opposed to the virtual currencies that really want to be competing currency.
And that lines up with what we've known for a very long time, years in fact, is that XRP is a complement to the system, a bridge to the system, a water to get rid of the friction and the heat from the actual traditional financial rails. That's what this is. That's why the water analogies, right? So, you know, it's amazing to me because, you know, and we've even seen people of late out here try to reposition narratives about XRP being the star or some other thing. It's like XRP has always been a complement and a bridge. And a lot of these people out here get twisted narratives just so they can continue to try to be right or hold on to some negative angle and denying what the macro goal is unfolding right before our eyes. We're watching the United States government allow the debt of the nation be tokenized on the XRP ledger. I think we're done here. There's your signal. And for me, as I have said from this channel, it is the legislation from the United States government that will act as a catalyst to unlock the digital asset space. I really do believe that. And so far, it's proven out. Meanwhile, what do we see? The Bollinger Bands tightening, ladies and gentlemen. Every time we see this happen, you know what happens next. And he's not wrong. The question is when will it happen? Will we get that decision before August 15th? Or will it wait until August 15th and we get another delay if the legislation is not passed? That is the question. And fundamentally, I think that's the next thing to pay attention to. Because again, I really do feel it is legislation getting passed that absolutely sets this market in motion. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. We're going into the Freedom Zone. Oh my goodness, I hope you will join us. This is a heavy one today. Are we concerned about the U.S. getting drawn into another war? Or has it already happened? We're going into the Freedom Zone right now. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. Come on in. All right.